Hi, I'm Rev.Jessie Brandon, and I'm a life cycle celebrant as well as a metaphysical minister. You're watching Epiphanies, where I get to bring my two loves together, people and books. Now today I'm meeting with Anita Kaur from Juvenile Wellness, and Anita is an Ayurvedic wellness practitioner practicing in Barrie since May 2014. Having learnt this holistic practice of healing from India, she offers consultations and treatments around this 5,000-year-old time-tested modality. Anita is also a registered reflexologist and a Reiki practitioner, which she incorporates into her treatments. Yoga and meditation are important parts of Ayurvedic treatments. Thank you so much for being with me today, Anita.
Thank you for having me here, Jessie.
Yeah, so today we're talking about The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It's by Robin Sharma. And it's sharing the story of Julian Mantle, the superstar lawyer whose stunning material success masked deep emptiness within. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari was initially printed in a small quantity, but quickly grew into a word-of-mouth sensation. The book's simple yet remarkably powerful message of hope, inspiration, and authentic success has spread throughout the world. So, Anita, why did you choose to bring this book to us today?
I think everybody's story is connected somewhere. You know, we all share the same story somewhere.
Yeah.
So when I did not pick up this book, I think this book picked me up.
Oh yeah.
And it was when I was searching for some answers, so answers that we know, but they haven't really come out, really. We are not aware of it, right? So this happened when I did not want to go back into the corporate world after my kids were born, and I was still struggling to know what to do with my life after. And I could have gone into corporate world, get lots of headaches, not be myself, and earn good amount of money, you know, and maybe had seen some, you know, promotions year by year, but I was not happy. You know, I was not content.
Right.
There's something missing in the equation. So while I was just, you know, taking care of my little kids, this book picked me up, and it was on my bookshelf for a long time. I didn't get time to read it. One day I read it and I was like, oh, I want to be this, you know.
Yeah.
This is me, and I have been lost, you know. I want to find my path back. And I think that's where the story began. And when I read, there's a paragraph there that really hit me, and was like, do what you love in your life and find your passion, and do it with all your heart, direct all your energy towards it, and you will find happiness there.
Yeah.
That's the key to happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's basically do what you love and the rest will follow.
Rest will follow. Abundance, wealth, health, whatever, you know, comes with it, everything will follow.
That's
and
super.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So do you have that marked in the book, or is there something that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I like to. I like
it
to
looks
mark
like you have quite a few.
Lots of things, but see, oh, I just opened that page. All right, so this is the lawyer. I think this is Robin Sharma's own story, some people say, when he was a lawyer himself, and then he wanted to go into the spiritual path more.
Yeah.
So he says, all right, the secret of happiness is simple. Find out what you truly love to do and then direct all of your energy towards doing it. If you study the happiest, healthiest, and most satisfied people of our world, you will see that each and every one of them has found their passion in life and then spent their days pursuing it. This calling is almost always one that in some way serves others. So he also talks about investing in yourself, which is a great deal in this book. So this lawyer who was just very competitive, and he was like gung-ho about, like, you know, being the best, and he had all these materialistic possessions. And he fainted one day in the court because he had a heart attack. And then I think that was his calling. When he was in the hospital, the doctor told him, either you have to give up your law, or, you know, you give up your life. So which one is it? So he chose life, because that's an innate sense, right? All of us want life. But not just life, but we want living the real living, right? Not just days go by and we are doing our stuff. So I think what I do in Ayurveda, like my practice, that was also calling for me, and I have been very happy and blessed that Ayurveda found me, or I found Ayurveda.
So what other snippets in the book have you got to share with us about what he learned or what he suggests?
Okay, this one is also one of my favorites. He says, he tells his subordinate, who was John, his colleague, he says, he comes back after 3 years, and then from the Sivana, the sages of Sivana from the Himalayas. And he sits with them and he learns all the wisdom, and the sages say you have to go back to the West and preach it. That's our price. So he goes back and he says to his subordinate, his friend, now, you practice the art of Kaizen by pushing yourself daily. Work hard to improve your mind and body. Nourish your spirit. Do the things you fear. Start to live with unbridled energy and limitless enthusiasm. Watch the sunrise. Dance in the rain shower. Be the person you dream of being. Do the things you have always wanted to do, but didn't because you tricked yourself into believing that you were too young, too old, too rich, or too poor. Prepare to live a soaring, fully alive life. In the East, they say that luck favors the prepared mind. I believe that life favors the prepared mind.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it's interesting because I've never read that book, and yet that's pretty much what I say to people.
Yeah. I think we all know that. It's just like we are covered with so many veils of this, social things and materialistic things and things we have to take care of. Government, taxes, this and that, the news, whatever is happening covers us up. And somehow we believe that's what we are, but we are not that. So when we unshield take the veils out and we see, okay, what is our life's purpose here, and then we want to question ourselves, and we find the core answers are right in us. We're just not ready to prepare, or we're not prepared to face it sometimes because we are scared. Right?
Yeah.
But it takes courage. He talks a lot about courage. He talks a lot about fear that we face and how do we overcome that in the process. So it's everybody's journey, I think. We learn a lot from them.
Yeah, I quite agree. I know that that's one of the things that my clients say to me a lot is, how do I make a living following what I love, because it's maybe not what society accepts as professional or corporate, whatever. And I really think that we as a society have done ourselves a disservice with all the technology that we use to advance and build more and better and so forth, because I really think that if you get back to the basics of honoring yourself and doing what you love and sharing what you know, it's just a better way to live, and you make out okay. I mean, I keep thinking of every time I put birdseed out in my backyard, I think of you, because that was one of our energy exchanges. And I love it because it makes me think of you, and I'm feeding the birds and the squirrels come too, and
it's a whole circle. So whatever we learn, we give it somewhere. And that person will give it to somebody else. So I like that, being connected in that form. Also, because the disconnection is the disharmony, right? And when we are not connected with nature, which is the 5 elements that we talk about in Ayurveda, and Earth is made up of the same elements. The universe is made up of the same elements. But imagine if the Earth shifts a little bit from the orbit, there will be many disastrous changes that may happen, right? Same way, when we shift from our axis, from our alignment, we find all these imbalances happening. So, but because they are so subtle, and we are very resilient human beings, right? Are very resilient. We think that that's the way we can work with it. Okay, and we shove it under the rug. And one fine day, it erupts and shows us the face, and like it's not a pleasant one. That
yeah,
you know.
That is a wonderful imagery that I got there. When the world shifts off, slightly off its axis, it causes all kinds of horrific events.
Yeah.
And when we shift off our axis, even if it's just a slight degree,
yes, few mm's.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
I think that's where he found, when he was this lawyer, when he was in this very materialistic, very high-pitched, high rat race kind of world, he was very empty inside. You know, he was imbalanced. And he went to the extremes. He was either too much of that, and then he found his balance there. And then he comes and tells his friend that doing extreme of anything, it's not good. You know, we find our balance when we are doing everything in moderation. So, for example, eating, you know, in Ayurveda, they say eat everything, but in moderation. You know, don't go extreme on just being vegetarian, fine. That's if that works for you, that's fine. But if your body type is certain, you can have a little bit of proteins which are animal-based, but don't go over it, right? But anything that is over becomes poison. You know, anything that is moderation is medicine. You know, that's the way Ayurveda works.
Yeah, that is really interesting, because it just suddenly flashed into into my mind. As I've said many times, I was raised in a very strict Baptist home, and so there was a lot of Bibling, and that all things in moderation was something that that's in the Bible, and that's taught a lot. It kind of flashed in my head, and I thought, I think there was a few things missed on that in my home, but anyway, so all things in moderation, and it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Everything, like even all the religious teachings, if you go back to that, all the books have that. We don't pay attention to that. You know, we have to go by these kind of books and say like, oh, this is a reminder for us again. But what our grandmothers and our old aunts have been telling us, we don't pay heed to that. You know, but it's been practiced all. If you go back to your roots, you know, you will see that those things are happening, and people have been talking about it. But how much are we practicing in real life? How much are we walking the talk? You know.
Yeah, very true.
Not much.
No.
So that's awareness we need to bring to us in everyday practice, everyday life. You know? So here he also talks about compassion. You know, but compassion begins from ourselves. Not before giving it, we need to have it first.
Right.
If we don't have love, we don't have compassion, how can we give it to somebody?
Right.
If we are empty inside, what will we give to somebody else?
Exactly.
So self-love is very important.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it also says somewhere here about making mistakes. And I like that, because I have made lots of mistakes in my life.
Myself as well.
Yes. And it says it's okay to make mistakes. Where is it? There is nothing wrong with making mistakes. Mistakes are part of life and essential for growth. It's like that saying, happiness comes through good judgment comes through experience, and experience comes through bad judgment. It's a circle. But there is something very wrong with making the same mistakes over and over again, day in and day out. This shows a complete lack of self-awareness, the very quality that separates human from animals. So because we are humans, you know, I'm sure you must have heard of this saying, it's an old saying, that consciousness or God sleeps in the rocks and dreams in the plants and stirs, is awake in the animals, but is very aware in the human beings.
I've never heard that before. That's really neat.
So it's a very old saying, but that's very true, right? And in Eastern philosophy, it's believed that we go through these cycles of rebirth and death and rebirth, right? Now, because of our karmic patterns, the way human life is the most advanced, evolved life, right? And in this life, if we are doing the things, or our intentions are good, or whatever we are doing is taking us on a good path, like, you know, per se, I don't know what is good or bad, but whatever is good for them, right? So accordingly, we become that in next life. We can become a rock too if we are very, like, feel nothing, or we are always unaware of things, or, whatever is happening, just we are not contributing to anything.
Yeah.
We may become a plant, who knows?
Yeah.
So it's all what we are, our intentions and thoughts are as a human being. Because it says that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Right.
So we need to take full advantage of this, life.
Yeah, take full advantage of having the human experience.
Yes.
And I always liken that to be in the world but not of it.
Yes.
Which, of course, again, is from the Bible. And I think that that's, again, what we've missed.
Yes.
Is that we can be in the world, but we don't have to do what everybody else is doing. We don't have to follow anybody else's path.
Follow your own dream.
Yeah, follow your own dream, exactly.
And take an example of a lotus. Whenever I have a business which is lotus, and I got another business which was also lotus, so I was thinking, why do I get attracted to lotus so much? Maybe it's telling me something. I always say that lotus always grows in mud, in dirty water.
Yeah.
And our lives should be like that. This whole world, if you think of it, it's pulling us towards negative things, negative experiences, and we get attracted more to that. However, if we become lotus, we stay on top, still in the mud, but we rise above.
We rise above. Yeah.
So we get that experience. We are still there, but we are evolved. We have become self-aware. So become a lotus.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Become a lotus. Yeah, very neat. I've heard that many times recently.
Yes.
Of course, with Facebook, you get all kinds of memes, but I have seen that one a few times now about, be strong like a lotus, because it starts out in the mud and pushes its way up to the sunlight and blooms.
Yes.
And so it's the same message.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you come from; it's how you grow. And what you show.
Yes, yes.
The
one thing I'm working here from this book, I've of course learned, but it's still work in progress, is more of self-discipline. I need to.
Yeah.
Because self-discipline is the key, and because of all the schedules and everything, and we're taking care of way too many things in our lives, we need to set our priorities right.
Yeah.
Because for our own peace of mind and to make life simple.
Right.
Because life is simple. We just make it very complicated. If we just live in harmony with nature and with ourselves, life would be very simple.
Yes.
But we'd go against it and make it complicated.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm going to get a little bit political here, but I think that's the greatest injustice we've done to the Aboriginal, Indigenous people in our time and space, because that was their philosophy, was live with nature, observe, and watch yourself and see how you behave, and watch the land and see what it does. It'll tell you what to eat and where to go and so forth.
Because you're nature too, right? You're part of it.
Right.
And if you're harming the mother, then how can a child be fine?
Oh, I like that. If you harm the mother, how can the child be fine?
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
So I think we have a big work to do to save not just ourselves, our planet, or everything around us.
Yeah.
To make it all in one thread, one connection.
Yeah. Yep. I quite agree. Yeah. So, do you think we have a chance?
Yes, it's never too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can still. Yes, if we are aware of it, that's the first step. Being aware of it, accepting it, acknowledging it, and then the work can be done. Yes, if we all come in the same page. And I'm sure a lot of people these days believe the same thing. They want to do something, even if it is a tiny bit. It doesn't have to be a huge project. But even if you're like planting few trees in the name of wellness or something, that's a great part, I think.
Yeah, that's I know. I was in London, I guess with my daughter a couple of years ago. That's where she was living at the time, and happened to go to some festival on the waterfront. and they were basically giving away trees. Some they were charging $5 for, but I grabbed one and brought it home and asked my landlord if I could plant it in the front yard, and he just kind of looked at me like, yeah, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
You know? That tree's still there today. I mean, it's only 2 years, but it's growing.
It's
so,
growing, yes.
you know.
So another thing he talked about, and we all should, I shouldn't say should, because that's preaching. We all have a way of living in a moment, right? Everybody has a different way. Some people like to meditate, some people like to write, some paint, some do scuba diving, some do kayaking, you know, different things. That's living in the moment. I'll tell you a story that really touched me. It's from India, and there was a, have you heard of the word fakir?
Fakir, yes.
So fakir are people who live on daily basis. They don't live in a house. They have detached themselves from the worldly possessions. And if somebody sees them, they're hungry, they give them money or food. They eat it and they remember God and meditate, and that's all they do. So there was this fakir, and it's a true story. And he went to this saint. He told him, I don't ask from anybody and everybody, but I'm asking from you, and I haven't eaten for 3 days. So can you give me, you know, whatever the money was, like 1 rupee, let's say. And because this is an old story, so 1 rupee had a lot of meaning. So this guy said, I don't have 1 rupee, I'll give you 2 rupees. So he bought the food for 1 rupee, and the remaining 1 rupee, he ran after him to give it back to him. So the saint said, no, just keep it for the next day, for tomorrow. And the fakir got really angry. He's like, I thought you were a saint. Why do you worry about tomorrow? If God or, you know, and the energy has provided me food for today, that energy or that you know, power will give me food for tomorrow also. So how are you, saint? That saint started crying, because he's like, this guy has given me so much lesson that as a saint I was thinking that I know more, but there was ego there, you know. So it was a lesson for him. So we learn from anywhere and everywhere. So you know,
that's really amazing. Yeah, you don't think of it, but yeah, he was planning for tomorrow,
yes,
and forgetting about today, really. Yeah.
So we have to have faith.
Yeah.
And believe in ourselves and believe that things will be fine. You know? We are not the ones who are sometimes like surrender, you know. We need to surrender, and then things will take its course. Yeah. Of course, we have to keep working towards it. Yes. Not give up, but not in this kind of conclusion that we are the ones who are doing it. If we do not do it, it will not happen. You know, if we do it with this kind of mindset, most likely it won't be as successful. If we do it with a mindset that we are doing it, but we leave it to the universe to take care of, right, and do our best, you know, we'll see more success. Yeah.
Now, that philosophy, where did you come by that philosophy? Was it your upbringing? Is it something you've discovered? Is it the book? Where?
I think it's from our religious books.
Yeah.
Also from, you know, some self-help books, and the satsangs.
Satsangs, yes. Which we are bringing to Barrie,
yes. we are bringing to Barrie.
Yeah.
And because as a little kid, I used to go with my grandmother to these satsangs, because she used to really go for, you know, very famous saints and everybody, enlighten people. And first I used to find that very boring, because I couldn't understand. But as you grow and, you know, you had questions, and if those questions were answered, some of them were not answered, and you become more curious, you know, so that got me on that kind of journey. Yeah. So, and sometimes in my path when teenagers, it was pushed away. I didn't think about those questions at all. Yeah. And when things are settling again, I guess, in my life, I started to think about those questions again. You know, I think it happens with everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I would totally agree.
Most people.
Yeah. Yeah. The big questions start to be more prevalent.
Yeah, And I think it's important to question ourselves in retrospection, introspection, and evolve, right? Because we don't want to make the same mistakes. We want to make the mistakes which are new.
Yeah.
Okay, so bad judgment and end up, you know, making those mistakes. But if we keep making the same ones, then we haven't really evolved.
Right.
You know? So it's a learning process.
So in your practice, do you? I read on your paperwork that you use. Let's see, yoga and meditation, and then you incorporate Reiki into your treatments. What else? What kind of treatments do you do in your spa?
It's I call it more wellness.
Yes, your wellness center.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Because Ayurveda is a very holistic science. It's based on the human body, mind, and spirit, which are not separate from each other.
Right.
You know, anything that happens to the spirit, mind feels it. Something happens to the mind, body feels it, and they're all connected. So the physical pain happens because of some lack of, you know, integration or disharmony. So in Ayurveda, we believe that there are the earth, the water, the air, ether, and fire. These are 5 elements that universe is made up of. And in a micro way, we are made up of the same way. So we have all these elements. Now, some of us have more of fire. Some of us have more of wind, you know, air. And so these kind of personalities are called biological energies in Ayurveda. And they're not personalities per se, but they are formed at the moment we are conceived in our mother's womb, right? So depending on how what the time was when the mother and father were together, and when we were conceived in the mother's womb, the time, the year, what did she eat, what was the emotion she was going through. So everything makes us.
Yeah,
you know?
That is absolutely amazing, and I hate to have to cut you short just when we've really gotten interesting. But I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. I always learn so much when talking with you. So thank you for coming, and thank you to my viewers for watching us today. Anita Kaur and the monk who sold us Ferrari. So there's lots of good stuff in this book, and I thank you for watching Epiphanies. I do hope you'll join me again next week. Thanks so much.